Hello and welcome back. It's time for your weekly dose of the Wild Ones podcast, the show where we chat about bike stuff. I'm Jimmy and I'm here with Francis and producer Emily. How's everyone doing?
Good. I liked how you looked down at your notes when you read Jimmy, just to remind yourself what your name was.
I do have to check. I'm basically Ron Burgundy when it comes to the iPad teleprompter.
I could change it, say anything I want.
Yes, you could, yeah. Please don't.
Why is it Comic Sans?
So, I heard a thing this week that apparently Comic Sans is the most reader-friendly text for dyslexic people. And Jimmy is not diagnosed dyslexic. However, we've come to realise...
He probably is.
But probably. And you've always kind of thought it as well, haven't you?
No, this is the first I've heard of it.
That's BS, Jimmy.
Can you imagine? This is the big reveal where you guys are like... So it's an intervention.
We wrote you that letter, Jimmy. It said it. You can read it, though.
I thought you said I had diarrhea.
So, yeah, apparently it's better than Arial, which is usually what we do it in. So what did you think?
Well, I didn't really read most of it, to be honest.
I'm not being funny, but that was the best you've done it.
That was incredible.
It was very good.
It was almost like you weren't reading it. The people listening audio only.
I wasn't reading it.
But did you memorise it?
I've said it 72 times.
Yeah, but this is the first time that we haven't had to restart.
This is outrageous.
Yeah, not for me. It offends me, in fact.
Makes you angry.
Like if I see a business out in the world, like a fish and chip shop, and they've used Comic Sans for their signage, I'm not going.
You just think, like, can you imagine what the fish is like if they're using Comic Sans for their signage?
Mm-hmm. It's true.
Dyslexic friendly though. It gets a very bad rap, Comic Sans. Maybe it should be used more often.
Perhaps.
Anyway, shall we get into some news?
Yes, please.
So after last week's news drought, there's been a much needed downpour of cycling stories. In fact, I found so much news that I've put together a little news quiz.
Did you just do a little pun then with drought and downpour?
I'm not sure if it was a pun. It was maybe a metaphor.
Okay.
Did you like it?
It was great, yeah. I think our listeners will love it.
Thanks. So I'm going to read out some headlines I've found in the cycling press. Some of them are real. Others I have altered slightly. Okay. So you have to tell me if you think each one is a real news story or fake news.
Good. Okay.
Most correct answers wins. I thought maybe to spice it up a little bit, we should add some stakes. The loser washes the winner's bikes.
Oh no, that's terrible.
Why?
Well, there's a lot of dirty Cade media bikes that currently need a wash.
They're not owned by me or you. They're just owned by the business.
To be honest, most of them aren't owned by the business either, and they're about to go back to the respective
Correct.
brands that own them.
In which case we should definitely not wash them.
Actually, yeah. So, I'm up for it because that actually only applies to a couple of bikes. Cool.
Okay.
That was mean. We will wash your bike, Canyon, before it goes back.
Okay. First headline is...
Sorry. I got distracted by having to clean bikes.
Yeah.
So you're going to give us a headline and we're going to guess whether it's real or fake.
Yes, exactly.
So I'm just writing down real or fake.
Write down real or fake.
Okay, cool.
Exactly.
And do you know what? People can play along at home.
Exactly, you can.
Because I'm not going to spoil the game.
No, we'll invoke the 3-second rule. I'll put some sort of timer on so that you get a chance to answer as well.
Okay.
First one is, Giant acquires indoor bike brand Peloton for an undisclosed sum.
3, 2, 1, go.
Fake.
I know Giant are a pretty big business, but I think Peloton's actual valuation is astronomical. So I don't think they could afford them.
Correct. It was fake news. The actual headline is that Giant has acquired US power meter brand Stages.
Oh, okay.
Yes, so one of Giant's subsidiaries called Spear Cycling has taken the brand and assets for a reported £16 million. We actually predicted this takeover would happen way back in episode 47 of the show. Will was here. You weren't here, Francis. I just saw the confusion in his face. He was like, yeah, just nodding along.
That would have happened even if I was in the episode. It's exactly the same reaction. As soon as the podcast is over, delete. Yeah.
You might remember that Stages abruptly closed in April and laid off its entire workforce. It then emerged that Taiwanese manufacturer Giant was suing them over £15.5 million worth of unpaid invoices and products. So it makes a lot of sense that they would acquire the brand. Giant says the acquisition supports the manufacturer's desire to create what it calls a comprehensive indoor-outdoor cycling ecosystem, enhance its cycling data capacities, and enter the commercial fitness market in which it has been manufacturing products for other brands for 3 decades. So it's probably going head-to-head with Peloton.
The cycling tech world loves the term ecosystem, doesn't it?
I think that the tech world loves the world ecosystem.
Do
they
they
just
use it-
released a new phone. Do you, Nothing phone.
I'm a shareholder.
I
of
thought
nothing.
you were. I was trying to remember if it was that same brand. They just released a new phone, which is about £200. So an entry-level phone, I guess.
Yeah.
Smartphone, but with an ecosystem that goes with it. With all cases and chargers and these things that specifically for the phone.
I'm interested that you're a shareholder in this company, yet you have an iPhone.
Yeah,
And
because
all
they're,
Apple products.
they're rubbish. I don't want one. Nothing. Oh.
Okay.
They're not rubbish. They are actually quite good. It's a disruptor brand. I have an iPhone because it is the best possible product that we can use for work, which I think we will talk about a little bit later on. Yeah.
Okay, fine. Great. Well, you both got that one right. So, question,
You keeping score?
yes.
Okay.
Now, headline 2. Absolute Black will only let you buy its new titanium oversized pulley cage if your bike is good enough. Is that a real headline or a fake news headline?
3, 2, 1, go.
Let you buy.
I'm going true. True.
I seem to have written the word fali.
But you mean fake?
I mean fake.
This company do some pretty outrageous stuff and have very strange behavior. So I wouldn't be surprised. I'm hedging my bets.
My thought is it might be semantics, and that it's more a case of their products are only compatible with very expensive bikes.
Okay, well, I can tell you this is a real headline that was in Road CC. Absolute Black will only let you buy its new titanium oversized pulley cage if your bike is good enough. So it's priced at £839. It's the hollow cage titanium. It's only compatible with Shimano Dura Ace Di2. And you will need to send a picture of your bike to Absolute Black to ensure it's beautiful enough for the exceptional caliber of the product. They say that this pulley cage is for the finest bicycles only. And according to Road CC, the brand has said this: owing to the limited and very complicated production of our latest creation, only selected requests will be considered. Should your masterpiece reflect the exceptional caliber of our design, you may be extended a personal invitation to purchase. This is our way of honouring those who have invested in creating something truly remarkable.
Absolute Black can go cuss themselves.
Have you seen the thing they're talking, the product they're talking about?
No.
It's an oversized pulley wheel with a big hole in the middle, and it's ugly and horrible. And those are the 2 banned words that Emily's banned from videos. But it's true.
Only when we're talking about
People's
bikes that
bikes.
people might own, I guess.
Yeah, but people are going to own this. Well, no one can buy it because no one's bike's pretty enough. Ridiculous. They make an excellent chain ring and lots of things that are compatible with different chain rings, like spiders and things. Handy if you have cranksets which need to be a certain width. And like the boost, I needed a boost chain ring. They got some good stuff. But this thing, nah.
Oh, I have seen that. Yeah, it's terrible.
It's horrible. It's just disgusting.
What that product is guaranteed to do is make your bike uglier.
And worse performing,
Don't buy it.
probably.
I think it looks cool. It sort of looks like a mermaid. It's got sort of scaly bits and petrol colouring.
I'm sorry to break it with you, Emily, but you don't have a bike suitably good for this product. They won't let you have it.
They won't let you.
I mean, fine. I'm sure I'll get over it, to be honest. We should submit a bike to this and see what they say. Because I wonder if it... I always think things like these are... It's marketing spiel. It's stuff to get attention. It always works. We always feature it. However, I wonder if actually... What I know is that people like to show you their bikes, because Rate My Ride inbox is bursting at the seams. You're yet to film another one. It is bursting at the seams. People like to show off their bikes. However, you want to show off your bikes and it be well received. So I can't imagine that it would be great PR for you to show your bike and be like, nah. So I'm assuming they're going to say yes
To nearly everything.
to nearly everything.
Oh, it's just weird. They're such a weird company, I think.
Or maybe not. I'm not sure, but I want to test it.
I think can we encourage our audience for absolutely everyone to just spam absolute back with
If you own a
with pictures of their
Tri-Van,
bike.
can you send it in?
Or just send random pictures of like kids' bikes and stuff like that to them.
We should definitely submit the Tri-Ban with 11 grand's worth of upgrades.
Yeah,
on
we
it.
should. Yeah. We should submit the 350 quid Tri-Ban.
But that's going to really
It's a great bike.
It'll really confuse them though, won't it? Because they'll go, "Oh, it's a Tri-Ban," and then they'll go, "Oh, but it's got 11 grand's worth of stuff on it. What's going? Do we say yes or do we say no? What do we do here?"
Is
Yeah.
it beautiful? That's the question they'll ask themselves.
Well, it'd be worse with that pulley on it.
It would be.
Okay, well done. So Francis is in the lead so far. Headline number 3. British retailer Halfords is set to double its range of bikes priced under £1,000, saying more affordability is what the industry needs right now.
3, 2, 1, go.
I guess if they've only got one bike under £1,000 to start with, which seems to be the case across most brands these days, then that's not that hard to do.
Oh, I'm being hopeful. I've gone true.
Okay. Jimmy's gone fake. I can tell you it is fake news. The real headline was Halfords is set to double its range of bikes priced over £1,000, saying the premium sector is the fastest growing part of the cycling market. So for those who don't know, Halfords is a British motoring and cycling retailer which mainly deals in more affordable and mid-range models. It's also reportedly the largest provider of cycling sales and services in the UK. Did you know that?
Oh, that's terrifying.
Not renowned for their mechanical ability.
The company reported that its bike sales had dropped to 30% below pre-COVID levels in its preliminary financial results for the year to March 2024. So its bike sales are down massively.
I think everyone's are, though, to be honest.
So in response to that, it's announced plans to more than double its premium bike offering. The new bigger range will feature models from in-house brands Carrera, Boardman and Voodoo with prices up to £3,800. Apparently they'll start rolling this out in the next couple of months, but the retailer claims it still offers incredible value compared to similarly spec'd models. So their head of cycling says, while to some it may seem counterintuitive to call bikes approaching £4,000 good value, this is a sector where bikes can often hit the 5-figure mark, and as such, our new range offers incredible value for the price.
That statement is great until he said bikes can often hit the 5-figure mark. You can get bikes that are over £10,000, but they represent practically no bikes that are sold. There's so few of them on the road compared to bikes that are under £5,000, £3,000.
That's true, but it's interesting. This idea of the premium sector is the only one doing well at the moment. I've heard echoes of that from lots of different places. And I guess it does make sense if you think cost of living is always going to affect those on lower incomes way more. Whereas I guess the idea is if you've got money, you'll always have money to some degree. Although everyone's feeling the pinch, you might be making the decision between having a £3,000 bike or a £1,000 bike versus someone else who goes, I just can't afford a bike right now.
Look at Pinarello.
Exactly.
Their most sold bike is not the lower end ones. It's the highest end Dogma.
Exactly. Colnago have recognised that as well, which is why they're staying on premium bikes. So as an aside to this, I saw a stat this week, which was up to 2 million people are being priced out of riding a bike, according to new research from charity Sustrans. So only 30% of people on in low-income jobs or unemployed have access to a bike, but 55% of people in low-income jobs or unemployed felt that access to a bike would save them money, while 79% thought it could improve their physical and mental health. So Sustrans have proposed a voucher scheme that would give very low income buyers 40% off a new bike, and they say it would cost about £80 million annually, but could yield £60 million in social benefits, including lower NHS costs and saving 13,000 sick days. They've also made other proposals, such as the government addressing barriers to cycling, such as infrastructure and better parking, etc. So, I'm not blaming Halfords for the fact that this is happening, but it's just there is a problem, isn't there? The retailers are going, we're not selling as much as we usually do. We know that the higher end of the market is doing well. And simultaneously, people are being priced out of riding.
It's actually a term that's very new to me, this travel poverty. Is that what it was?
Transport poverty.
Transport poverty. And it's ultimately the idea that there are people that are poor enough that actually getting places is problematic for them. And one of the things that there are some charities that do, one of which is Recycle Your Bike, that I'm a trustee for, is get bikes to people that are poor, whether it's that they're much cheaper than they would normally cost, or in many cases free. I think Sustrans have some hubs as well where they do similar things. That ultimately its function is to kind of go, well, travel's expensive. Even public transport, a bus is £4 a day or something or other, which doesn't sound like much, but then if you have to use a bus to get to work, all of a sudden you're spending £50, £100 a month just to get places. Whereas on a bike, it can be free. Technically, you'd probably want to eat a bit more food, but it's a lot cheaper than £4 a day, or can be cheaper than £4 a day for the extra bit of food. It's an odd space, isn't it?
It's why it annoys me so much. Like, I've spent a lot more time in America recently, and I love it. But the social tax of car ownership in cities and lots of places, not just cities, where you have to own a car, and that just wrecks people. Like, it's so expensive to have a car. And we've chatted about it a few times on the drive home, and for the majority of people, I just don't understand how it makes sense. It's the dumb thing, isn't it? At least here we have buses and trains.
I think where we as a group of friends are kind of evolving to is, and I think it's something that we'll end up talking more and more about on Cade Media stuff as well, is we like e-bikes because they enable people to ride bikes where they wouldn't necessarily be able to ride them for like life stuff. And we like the idea that bikes actually legitimately are a tool to be able to do things that you wouldn't be able to do otherwise. I don't know. I guess I got involved with a Recycle Your Bike because I have grown up in really, really, really poor areas, and people used bikes because that was how you got around.
Functionally rather than recreationally.
Yeah, and it would usually be a really old style mountain bike that was absolutely junk, but it meant that you could get 3-4 miles relatively fast and it'd be fine. Because if you weren't doing that, you were going to walk those 3 or 4 miles.
Yeah. But yeah, this is it. I mean, Recycle Your Bike is saying that they have more demand than ever before, which tracks with this, the stat from Sustrans as well.
Yeah.
So their thing is they get bikes that would otherwise sort of go to waste or just kind of gather dust. They fix them up. They get them to people who need them, and also teach them how to maintain them so that you can do your own repairs as much as possible to keep that cost low and free. But I mean, they're a charity at the end of the day. They rely on the kindness of people to fund stuff like that. So
am I allowed to put a little plug in here?
Yeah, go on then.
So at Recycle Your Bike, we are currently doing a crowdfunding campaign. It's literally just launched this week. Can we put like a link somewhere?
Yeah, I'll put a link.
It's got loads of information about what it's about and what it's doing. We've all donated £250 each to Recycle Your Bike to try and get more bikes in people's hands and, I guess, reduce, where possible, transport poverty.
Yes, good plug. Back to Halfords. If they can offer value in that price range, then that is a good thing. Because, you know, we're looking at the whole of market here. There's a case for lower income, addressing transport poverty, functionality. However, a lot of our listeners will also not be in that position and will be looking for good value because they will also feel a pinch on their money. And why would you not be looking for good value? So if they can offer good value, that is a good thing. Presumably there will still be more affordable options.
We haven't seen, obviously, Halfords offering, but we noticed it so when Decathlon launched Van Rysel or relaunched Van Rysel, we were very excited at the idea that a big brand have the potential to to disrupt the cycling space and force better value. And I think this is probably, regardless of Halford's reputation, potentially going to also contribute to that. The more big brands that are not necessarily pure cycling brands are coming in and going, actually, we can do this bike for £3,000-4,000 less than the big cycling brands, is going to force the big cycling brands to have to then adjust their offering as well, which in theory is going to be great for consumers eventually.
Or the big brands just stop making the mid-range bikes.
They won't though, because it props them up.
Does it?
Excluding the premium brands, for example, Colnago, Pinarello, but specialized Trek,
Giant,
Cannondale, all of those like
Specialized
mass
don't
market
even make
brands.
it, but it's £1,000.
No,
the starting
but
bike.
the mid
The mid stuff, yeah. But yeah, they're going to have to adjust, surely. Maybe this is a reaction to Decathlon.
probably.
Yeah, because they'll have lost market share to places like
100%.
Yeah. But you touched on it before, Francis. For this to succeed, I think they're going to have to put some serious effort into brand reputation cleanup, because they don't currently connect with a lot of experienced cyclists. And by experience, I mean people who are not just coming fresh to the sport, people who are potentially looking for their second bike, their third bike. That's the sort of target you're getting at when you're offering £1,000 plus. No one's really spending, or very few people are spending that on their first bike, but as they become more experienced, that's when you look to sort of upgrade. Like the comments on the Facebook article under this story were people just ragging on their bad service and poor mechanics. And to be fair, we've had emails from people disputing this, saying that, you know, they've had very good experiences, or saying that they are Halfords mechanics and they and their team come with a lot of experience. So it's potentially not a nationwide issue. I don't know if we can comment truly on where we stand on that, but either way, the fact remains that reputationally there is a problem that needs to be addressed. And without that, I don't know how much success they can have. Is that fair to say?
I think it limits them being able to take chunks out of like traditional roadie cyclists, people that are already cyclists.
Totally.
But I think probably where they will do well is someone that hasn't been groomed through the road cycling space that goes, oh, I'm going to buy a bike.
Yeah.
You get one for sub £1,000. You go, I'm going to upgrade my bike. Well, I got this one from Halfords and it was quite good. They do good value, so I'll get my £3,000 bike from there. You don't know any different.
It just takes some time.
Yep.
And we've seen it with brands before. The reputation can change and the brand image can be repaired. Ribble is a really good example because they've gone from being the place where you bought your shit winter bike to a high-end bike brand, essentially, although some of them are slightly more affordable. And then Skoda is a car example where the reputation was in the bin, and now they even had an ad campaign where they embraced that, and they're like, excuse me, sir, has someone stuck a Skoda badge on your lovely new car?
Yeah.
Like, what's so they've managed to flip it around completely. And I assume, did we buy a Skoda?
Yeah, we bought a Skoda.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, they worked on us. No, totally. It is definitely doable. And that is what, there is a whole industry of people you can pay for that thing, right? And I guess even Decathlon, they didn't necessarily have a bad reputation, but they had a very neutral reputation. They were unknown players in the space.
They I guess
In terms of higher end stuff, you know,
well,
the
I
Van
think that's
Rysel
it.
stuff, you know, they've come out and they've sponsored a pro team, and all of a sudden it's a pro level bike. It's a World Tour level bike.
The word on the when it came out that AG2R were going to be riding Van Rysel, people out on group rides were all saying like, oh man, I feel so sorry for the team, blah, blah, blah. Bike comes out. Oh, it's really good. And the reputation is changing.
So if you just got
right now
a couple of million stuffed down the back of the sofa that you
Easy.
can sponsor a team with, then, I mean, we might say Halford's lease a bike in a couple of years.
Boardman, isn't it?
Yeah, Boardman. Well, this is it. Yeah, I guess maybe they'll harness that relationship more, because Boardman was fully bought out by Halfords. It's completely
Nothing
owned
to do
by
with
them.
Chris Boardman anymore.
No. So, yeah, well done. We've spent about half an hour talking about that one. On to number
You can edit it down, Emily.
number 4.
no, don't.
The headline is, you can now pay Strava Mules to do your rides for you.
3, 2, 1, go.
We know the answer to this.
Do we?
Yeah.
True.
True.
I'm sure I sent it to you and said, you could use some Strava Mules.
Jimmy, I don't read your messages.
Was it you? Maybe it was someone else. I definitely sent it to someone and said, you can get yourself a Strava Mule.
Yeah, so this one is a real headline. This is a real story from Cycling Weekly. They've reported how Strava Mules, or jockeys, are people that you can employ to do your exercise activities for you. It's a trend that apparently grew out of Indonesia, where athletic souls began earning money from sharing running files. So Cycling Weekly found a Twitter or X account called Strava Jockey, which claims to be a global network of athletes who charge 10p per kilometre for cycling or 25p per kilometre for running. So on this Twitter account, it says, give us a starting point, the distance, the pace, and we'll do it for you. DMs are open. So a Cycling Weekly reporter called Tom Davidson actually commissioned them to do a 100-mile ride at 20 miles per hour, starting in Manchester. 8 hours later, he received a file which said the ride time was 7.5 hours and was told that the guy was out all day doing this activity for him. But 100 miles is 160 kilometres. At 10p a mile would be £16. Is that right?
I'd have to charge like 30 or 40 quid a mile.
£16 for 7.5 hours ride time plus any stops is...
Well, if they're riding their bike anyway.
But can you not just create digital files?
Yeah, so if you Google search Cycling Weekly Strava jockeys, you can read the whole thing there. But basically, the guy who runs the account is an IT programmer who may or may not be coding fictional GPX
100%,
files.
Definitely.
This jockey, it basically in the T's and C's, they say, we can't promise it's not coded. It's up to the discretion of the jockey.
Do you remember digital EPO?
Well, I remember you talking about it.
Yeah, so you could put your Strava, you do your ride, and then you would upload it to a website, add a tiny bit of speed to it, and then it would like adjust the file, make it look legit, and then you re-upload it again. But the people were getting busted for it.
Busted someone by who? The Strava police?
Well, I know someone listening right now who got busted for it doing a lap of Mallorca. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, apparently this jockey, he claimed he had a commission for £350 for an Everesting up Ditchling Beacon, and he did it. He delivered it, and he showed the journalist the file.
It's like playing World of Warcraft, where you're like, "Can you just get me to level 90? Thanks. I want a level 90 paladin. That's my order." And then they make it for you and then deliver it. And you get in trouble because it's on your IP address, different IP address.
Why would you want a paladin though?
I don't know. What? Paladin's good, right?
A word of warning, though, Strava says they will not allow modified files, and they potentially boot you out of it. So you might end up spending 350 quid for nothing if you want to do an Everesting.
You definitely get caught.
Well, potentially. I guess it depends how well it's coded. Who knows? Anyway, yes, true headline. Number 5 is Irish pro cyclist suspended for 3 years after testing positive for EPO.
3, 2, 1, go.
That's the headline.
That's the headline.
What's the catch?
The catch is...
Fake. I'm going fake because I feel like we would have covered it if it was true.
Well, not if it's only just come out.
Oh, it's live today.
This is it coming out.
It is a real story. This is the catch was nothing other than I need a title for this episode. So this is Australian-born Irish professional cyclist Jesse Hewitt, who has been banned for cycling for 3 years after testing positive for EPO in January. Are people still doing EPO? Apparently they are.
Yeah, there was a kid in the UK when I was racing who got done for it.
Really?
Yeah, it's like someone in a training camp found it in the fridge.
Oh, that's wild.
Yeah.
Have you forgotten how long ago it was that you were racing?
Oh, well, like 30 years ago.
I think are people still doing EPO as referring to now.
It's vintage.
Right. I feel like Smith from Titanic, where he's like 80 years ago.
When I was a boy.
So the 30-year-old rode for Malaysian-based continental team
Don't say it, just let it go.
Terengganu Cycling. He his positive test came after he won one stage of the UAE's Tour of Sharjah. All his results from this year have now been struck from the record, including a second place in the mountains classification at the Tour of Taiwan, second in the Bung Si FI international race, sorry if I pronounced that wrong, and a stage win of the Tour of Thailand. Naughty, naughty boy.
So that's someone else.
No, this is him. That
right.
was his Palmares.
Right.
That's all that's been his Palmares this year, which has been struck from the record.
Wow,
He's now banned for 3 years. So yeah, that was a little bit shoehorned in so that I have potential options for titles.
He needs to get himself over to the drug games. I can't remember what they're called.
Enhanced games.
And if you are upset that we tend to always have our headlines about drugs, well, blame your peers because that is what they click on. And we have to make sure that I've got someone poking me saying that we have to hit certain numbers, and I've got to make sure that.
Hey, it's not me. Sometimes we have a thumbnail choosing system now where you upload 3 thumbnails and the winner is chosen by the audience, essentially.
Yeah.
So whichever one gets the most click-throughs gets selected as the chosen thumbnail. And doing things like adding the decathlon logo to a thumbnail makes it drastically more likely to get clicked. So it's like, well, you'd be shooting yourself in the foot if you didn't do it. But then this is sponsored by Decathlon.
Yeah.
It's not.
And when they are, we make it very clear
make it obvious
for the record.
But it's funny, isn't it? Like this behavioral psychology of an audience is people just click things you wouldn't expect sometimes. Sometimes it needs to be more information in a thumbnail. Sometimes it has to be less. We now have technology to do it for us. Thank God.
And if you don't see the EPO story as the headline, it might be because AI has chosen a different option for
C.
you. Anyway, next one. £45 helmet rated safer than £135 competitor in new safety testing by Imperial College London.
3, 2, 1, go.
I'm going fake
True.
because the last one was true and I was 50% sure.
Okay, this is a real story.
I'm going to be washing these bikes.
Yeah, you are. So, researchers at Imperial College London tested 30 of the most popular helmets in the UK, with prices ranging from $9.99 to £135. They designed their own testing system and gave each one a safety rating to help consumers decide which helmet might be the best for them based on how much impact protection it provides. The highest performing helmet out of the bunch was the Specialized Align MIPS, which retails at 45 to 50 quid.
I wonder if the MIPS had much of a bearing on that.
Yeah, I think it's worth, if you're interested in this kind of thing, Google Imperial College London helmet testing, and it gives you some sort of indication of what the testing procedure was. So this helmet was also recommended in 2021 by the Research Institutes of Sweden. Both of those studies were funded by Road Safety Trust as well. So maybe they're funded by Big Helmet or something.
Yeah,
Big
they
helmet.
are 100% funded by Specialized.
Yeah, if you want to read that full story,
Speculation.
I'll link a link to that in the episode description as well if you want to have a look.
Link a link.
Link a link. Yes. Number 7. Wout Van Aert signs lifetime contract with Red Bull that will see him to the end of his pro career.
3, 2, 1, go.
True.
Fake.
This is fake news.
What?
He's actually signed a lifetime contract with Visma Lisa Bike.
Oh, that was a trick question, Emily.
I knew I was going to get that.
You guys with your pro cycling
Yeah.
stuff.
Sorry. So yeah, he doesn't ride for Red Bull Bora. However, he is a Red Bull sponsored athlete. He wears the helmet. However, the real story is he signed a new lifetime contract with Team Visma Lisa Bike. And he said, "I've decided to stay here for good. And that makes me feel really good." That's his quote. Last one.
He is properly at the point where he's just like, there, whatever.
He's something like 30 years old. Like I think that's quite a good move. See out the rest of your career. Nice little wage.
That's 2 people that I'm aware of now that have done that. Because obviously Van der Poel did a lifetime career with Canyon.
Not the team, the bike. Yeah.
Yes. I would love to do a lifetime contract with someone. It'd be great.
Last one. Okay.
Uh-oh.
Last one. Eddie Merckx jokes that he'll come round Pogacar's house and smash his windows out if the Slovenian wins this weekend's Road Race World Championships and therefore equals Merckx's Triple Crown record. He added, "Please just let me hold on to one of my records for fuck's sake." Is that a real headline?
3, 2, 1, go.
I'm going true.
False.
It was false.
Damn it!
I just made that entire thing up.
How did you not get that from the delivery?
You never know. Eddie Merckx is he's a loose cannon, isn't he?
I was basing it on me seeing a quote from him, I think around the Tour de France stuff that we did, where he was basically saying, like, it's good for cycling that there's people like Pogacar.
Ah, you based it on logic.
Yes.
Whereas I based it on, I want this to be real.
I thought you might base it on the quotes being ridiculously northern sounding. Come round his house and smash his windows out.
Well, I considered going with true until you closed it off with cusses.
Please just let me hold on to one of my records for fuck's sake.
That was the bit that got me over the line because I thought he might have said it in jest, but then I was like, nah, he's not doing that.
Yeah, so I just made that one up entirely. But it is the Cycling World Champs this week. They're taking place in Zurich, Switzerland. Grace Brown and Remco Evenepoel took the women's and men's TT titles at the weekend just gone. They are the first woman and man to win the Olympic and World TT titles in the same year. Road races happen the weekend coming up. Women's on the Saturday, men's on the Sunday. As mentioned, Pogacar will be looking to do cycling's Triple Crown, the Triple, which is officially the Giro, the Tour de France and the Road World Champs in the same year. So it's not Giro, Tour, Vuelta, because I think that's seen as impossible.
It's interesting how none of the pros really care about the Vuelta. It's like...
I don't know if it's a sense of care, but I think it's probably that if their goals are to do the Giro and or Tour, then it's just not...
Left.
There's
It's
nothing
a season
left.
thing, isn't it? It's just so late in the season, they're like, But it's becoming more and more watched.
Yeah.
Like online, I've just noticed that like videos about the Vuelta suddenly doing better than historically.
So Pog's looking to do this Triple Crown, and the only two people who've done it before are Eddie Merckx and Stephen Roche. Correction, they are the only men to have achieved it. Annemiek van Vleuten has achieved the equivalent in the women's pro peloton. So that will definitely be worth watching, as will the women's.
For sure.
Now, time for the scores.
Da, 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 da.
I can tell you that Jimmy
Your Cliff Bar.
Jimmy has won by a landslide.
Oh, yes.
7 out of 8 versus 3 out of 8, Francis.
Oh! That's class. I wish we'd done lunch instead of bike washing because I don't care about having clean bike, but I do care about having lunch.
Well, maybe you can barter with Francis after this.
I think he'd rather clean the bikes.
So, okay, that's the end. Well done, everyone.
Thanks. That was thoroughly enjoyable. I had a great time. Thank you for putting that together.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Next up, Fluff Up of the Week. So we've actually got 2, and both of them come from us filming yesterday. The first one is, I guess, the less significant one. I crashed my bike. And I actually blame you for this because we were riding gravel bikes on mountain bike trails, a red trail apparently. And I think you stopped to either wait to do like a run for the camera or because, well, I don't even know why. You stopped and I was like, oh, I'll slow down so I don't go into the back of Francis. And I ended up slowing down so much that my gravel tyre, not rather the mountain bike tyre, hit a little rock and I just stopped. And then the second reason that you are to blame for this is it was your cleats on the bike and therefore they were cranked up tight. And then I couldn't clip out, so I just side tumbled onto the grass.
It was a soft landing.
Thankfully, it was a very soft landing, which is why it's a bit of an anticlimax of a crash. But yeah, fell off my bike. And I have to say, surprisingly, I did wake up this morning. I was like, a testament to getting old is even from that, I woke up and I was just like, oh, why am I so stiff this morning? I was like, oh yeah, I did a 0 speed fall off onto grass.
I felt the same and I didn't fall off. I honestly, I hurt my back just cycling.
It was very
We
bumpy.
were riding, it wasn't the right bikes for the trails.
No, it definitely wasn't.
Admittedly.
Definitely wasn't. And then the second fluff up was we, on the subject of iPhones, so we both have the new iPhones specifically for recording video because they have a whole new feature around audio as well. The video has always been fantastic and we've been using the iPhones for B-roll on riding stuff for ages. So you've already seen us use iPhones, but the new ones have upgraded audio. So we're like, actually, this is potential for the next phase of us using iPhones more in video. They're definitely a little bit buggy because all of the video clips that I recorded yesterday had 0 audio on, and we have fixed it now because something was selected, which meant that it just didn't record audio. So we had to re-record some of those this morning.
There were so many clips of me. It was the best I've ever been on camera ever.
You were
ever.
10 out of 10.
A 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
And then I went to edit it. You airdropped it to me, didn't
Yeah.
you? And then I just... that was the worst last night.
It was the best cycling footage in the world, and you had to create
It was
a
the
tribute.
best. It was the best in the world.
We did a tribute this morning to it, but I had a good time.
Shall we do overrated, underrated?
Yes.
Yes. Notice it's back to Comic Sans for you, Jimmy.
Oh,
Time for a round of overrated or underrated. I'm going to read out some things, and you're going to tell me if you think they're overrated or underrated.
10-10.
Excellent. All right. Sportives or sportives.
Sportives?
Because it's a French word, presumably, isn't it? Like sportif.
sportive.
But I think lots of people say sportif.
Sportif. With an F.
Well, no, I was just being
Oh, sportive.
British. Sportives, suggested by Adam, who says, "Hey Wild Ones crew, I took part in the New Forest Sportif over the weekend and came away feeling that while I enjoyed riding my bike with some friends who joined me, the Sportif idea is hugely overrated, possibly even detrimental to cycling itself. Why pay an organiser £25 to £50 to put myself into huge conflict with many other vehicle drivers when I can plot a route myself and ride it with my friends for free?"
Camaraderie. Meeting new people.
I do think it's a very good point. And I didn't think that he was going to make a point that I was potentially going to agree with. And in some respects, I do very much agree with it, and others I don't. I think some events aren't worth being put on, but there are certain events which definitely are worth doing as an event.
The first thing I was going to say is I personally wouldn't pay for an open road sportive. I wouldn't pay for. However, it's sad that in this country, there are a lot of closed road sportives that have since been cancelled because drivers get angry that the roads are called off. Like even isn't Ride London going? They're going to do it in a different type of way.
What? It's not going to be closed road?
It's another level though, Ride London, isn't it? It's
Ride
so
London
big.
will not take place in 2025 as the organisers work on a new concept for the world's greatest festival. I don't know why, this is pure speculation, but is it because that they've had so much grief off the roads being closed? Because it's always, and they have people throwing tax on the road.
Yeah.
And, do you know what I mean? There's disruption.
They moved it to Essex to try and make it more viable, didn't
Exactly, yeah. So I think that I realise why closed road sportives aren't happening. They're very hard to get off the ground. There's lots of anti-cyclist sentiment.
they? Yeah.
However, I personally would not pay for an open road sportive because I'm not sure what you're getting out of it.
I only would if it was in a location that was pretty quiet and like what you're actually paying for is some safety. So like if I was going to go and do like a really rural 100-miler in like the depths of Northumberland, I would actually be quite comfortable paying 25 quid knowing that there's lots of support around.
There'll be a feed stop in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, and that kind of
thing.
thing.
Yeah. Because I suppose you could call like Unbound is pretty close to a sportive. Some would call it a race, but it's essentially the same thing. Most people are just riding it, timing themselves. You get the time at the end, like the front people at the front might be like bunch racing it. Most people aren't. That is a perfect example of it's a very quiet area. There's very few cars on the road. The locals don't mind. And because of those conditions, it's a perfect example of a sportive that does work. There are feed stations and water stops. And if you didn't have those and you wanted to ride it on your own, you'd have to carry quite a lot of stuff with you.
Especially if you do the longer ones, yeah.
It removes the stress. Yeah, even 100 miles, which is not the longest is 200 miles.
Yeah.
The 100-mile one is a long day on the bike.
Yep.
Riding at normal speeds. So, yeah, it depends on the conditions, I would say.
I think some are overrated and some are underrated. But if ultimately, Adam, if you felt like you didn't get any value in doing that event, then don't do it.
I guess you could argue a positive point for it is that some people like a milestone to work towards. And actually paying money and entering an event, it's the same thing as joining a gym, for example. It gives you the motivation to train for it.
Yeah,
However,
sure.
I have learned that does not work for me because I signed up for a 10K, which is next weekend.
Yep.
Did you tell people you can do it?
There's people coming to stay with us. That Emily is running the race on the Saturday
With someone who is coming up from London, especially to do it with.
You told people. That's
Pressure.
insane. Can't tell people.
And I just haven't. I'm not doing it. Unfortunately, I'm not doing it because while I could get around, I do not feel that it would be in my best interest.
Heelys.
It's off-road.
Off-road Heelys.
This all started because Jimmy signed up for the Cade Marathon, which happens to be on my birthday, by the way.
Sorry.
He decided that a really great present for me would be...
Standing on the side of a road in
Yeah,
Kilda.
but Kielder's beautiful though.
So I was like, okay, well, if there's a 10K, I'll sign up for that too. The 10K ended up being on a different day. So we're now spending a whole weekend doing running stuff. Yeah. But I've opted out. My birthday present to myself is I'm not going to do it. Thank you to me.
Happy birthday.
Overrated or underrated?
What, the Kielder 10K?
No, the Sportives.
Generally overrated.
Correct. Generally overrated.
I think they're overrated, but that doesn't mean don't do them.
Yeah, agreed.
I think it's probably the thing. Next up, we have dedicated winter shoes versus neoprene shoe covers. Suggested by Igor, who wants to know if there's any reason to ever pick the former over the latter.
I know your answer.
I have suffered with cold feet forever, but I like riding in winter. And I couldn't find an appropriate solution. So I ended up, courtesy of Toby, who Mr. Cold Dark North, he had some winter shoes and he was like, you should get some winter shoes. And then I got some and I haven't turned back. All of my cycling, actually, even my just general SPD mountain bike shoes are actually like thermally lined and stuff, even though I use them in summer. They're absolutely amazing. If you're going to use them. If you're not, they're a really expensive waste of money.
You have a big problem with circulation in your hands and feet, though, don't you?
I do, yes.
What's it called? Raynaud's or whatever. I don't know if you have...
Much like dyslexia, I don't know if I officially have it. But
you struggle a lot.
Yeah.
I think I'm the opposite end of the spectrum. And I've never, ever had to use overshoes, really. I have some of the grip grab ones, which I will opt for if it's snowing and hailing and freezing cold, and I'll put them on. But I still don't really get cold feet. So I'm very lucky. I've never tried the shoes like that, so I can't really comment.
It's one of those, like, if shoe covers are a lot cheaper than dedicated shoes. If you buy some shoe covers and they work fine for you, there is no reason to do anything else.
Well,
No?
the caveat to that is depending on how much you use them. Because shoe covers always get ruined within a couple of years.
Yeah.
Whereas like I've got winter shoes, which I've had for 8 years. I personally would always buy winter shoes, but I ride outside in winter in rubbish weather a lot.
But do you only know that because you had the shoe covers first and they weren't working for you? Yes.
Some of the decision is convenience. It annoys me. Like shoe covers are just another step in winter. There's already loads of stuff you have to put on. I would rather just put a shoe on. Bosh, done.
Overrated or underrated?
Underrated, despite having never used them.
They are massively underrated because hardly anyone has them and they're great.
Yeah.
Next up, rocker plates for turbo trainers, suggested by Alan, who says, I vote underrated. I struggle to ride my turbo longer than 90 minutes. Now with a rocker plate, 2 to 3 hour rides pose no problem at all. I understand that they're commonly available in the UK, but they're difficult to find in the US. I used a free online plan and built my own.
Yeah, you make them out of wood and some bouncy balls. So I've ridden one a long time in one sitting. 27 hours when I did a double Everest on a turbo in lockdown.
The actual rocker plate company loaned you one for that, didn't they?
It was just a guy who makes them. It was
Right.
one guy, just makes them in his garage, I guess. And he dropped one off for me and then gave it back afterwards. But it was a wooden plate which rocks, and you can change how much air is in the balls of this thing, depending on how much you want it to rock. It definitely makes your ride harder. Your core has to be engaged and you have to like push on your handlebars. The only problem with it is that the forces you're putting in are backwards to on a normal bike when you're outside on the road. So it's not like riding a bike outside, but it is adding an element of core usage and makes it slightly more interesting. If you were riding something like Zwift, you can then like lean if you wanted to try and make it feel more realistic, I guess, if that's what you're into.
Does it make it more comfortable?
No.
Because I think the idea is that you're so stiff and rigid in one position that you're always I guess, sitting on the same part.
The tax turbos, certainly the higher end ones, have movement in anyway. So unless being completely static feels horrible to you, maybe it's an option, you could try it. But
I think the problem here, Alan, is that you're doing rides that are too long for a turbo. 90 minutes is huge for
when
a
you
turbo.
get over 25 hours, it starts to
He's
hurt.
saying he's doing 2 to 3 hour rides with no problem now because of his rocker plate.
Oh, that is to me, that is suffering.
Well, maybe that's because you need a rocker plate, Jimmy.
Yeah.
Well, but I think the bit that I don't like about movement in turbos is what you hit on the head. It's backwards, isn't it? Because even with the tack stuff, with the rocky thing, it all just kind of the movements doesn't quite feel right. I like the side-to-side movement. So like in the plate bit, it moves a bit, and that does make it feel a lot more comfortable. But the back and forth movements on turbos, I'm not a huge fan of. I just don't think I could sit on a turbo for 3 hours, to be honest. Well, I could, but I'd be so miserable. So I don't. 20 to 40 minutes.
There's a really good viral YouTube video that I was suggested a while ago called The Counterintuitive Physics of Turning a Bike. And it basically says that to go left, you actually have to lean right. You almost end up turning the opposite way. I think that's what you're talking about, isn't
Yes,
it?
yeah,
If you said,
yes.
how do you go right on a bike? You'd say, well, I turn right. But actually, when you're doing it, you're not doing, you're turning the opposite way and you're leaning the right way or something like that. I don't know. Watch
the
that
rocker
video.
plate rocks one way and then you have to push on the handlebars every time you're out of the saddle.
Yeah.
It's just backwards.
But if it works for you, then it works.
I still think they're underrated
Yeah.
because it adds comfort one way or another.
If you got the space for it, they're bigger than you expect as well. I think they maybe do mini ones.
Next up, neck gaiters. So by this, I guess you mean like one
buff.
of those buff
Yes.
things that go around your neck. So my thoughts are, as neck warmers, they are overrated because they make your neck too warm. But as a convenient cloth to be carrying with you whilst you're out riding, especially in winter, I think they're underrated. So you can wrap it around your wrist, you can put it around your stem, you can clean your glasses with it, you can wipe some sweat off your face. If you get mud or whatever on you, it's just a cloth to wipe bits off. I find them quite useful as someone that doesn't have hair. I sometimes use a buff as one, you can do those like bandana things where you put it on, twist it, put it down the other way. I use them as that quite a bit.
Or if you're going to rob a horse and cart like a highwayman.
So I think they are underrated, but not as a neck warmer. I think they're overrated for that.
They're too good at warming the neck.
Biscoff. Originally a biscuit, now also a spread and a bazillion other products.
You can buy one. I did a eating every single energy bar video with Will, which hasn't been released yet. Will Gerling, the EF Pro nutritionist. And one of the items was Biscoff infused. And it was nice, except for the Biscoff taste. It's horrible.
I put this in because I did some editing on that video after you'd edited it. Got edited twice. And I saw you say horrible things about Biscoff and I was so upset about it.
That is rank. And also anything that's the spread, like Nutella, Biscoff, whatever that Spanish one is where it's all swirly, horrible things. Why would you ever want that? It's like, nah. I upset loads of the audience who liked tea last week. So now I'm going to get the Biscoff people.
I think you've just made a lot of enemies.
Savoury spread, acceptable. It's just sweet things. I don't like sweet things.
Jimmy, a lot of people were upset at you not liking coffee and me, but
Wait, I do
mainly
like
you.
coffee.
You said that it tasted like ash. You said that people only like the caffeine.
That is true.
We had people saying,
A man emailed.
Listen, I drink coffee and energy drinks every single day and I'm not addicted to caffeine in one slightest bit. I just like the
Impossible.
taste.
Unbelievable. There isn't a single energy drink in the world that tastes good.
Well, horses for courses, I guess.
Thank you for those suggestions. If you want to suggest anything for overrated or underrated, please send them to wildonespodcast@cademedia.uk and we might read it out on a future episode.
Let's do some listeners' takeover. Francis, would you do the honours?
The first one is from Sam. And he says, "Hi guys, I enjoyed your bike crash stories on the latest podcast. And I thought it would share a bizarre story about how a bike crash saved my life. A car stopped unexpectedly in front of our weekly group ride and caused several riders to go down, including myself. I managed to fall onto the rear wheel of the person in front, landing on it with my neck. It left me a little shaken, a sore throat, and a nice big tyre mark across my neck.
Mad.
Unlike Francis, I decided to seek medical attention just to make sure I hadn't done any further damage. As part of checking my neck, they did a CT scan and as a result discovered a severe narrowing of the aorta, the body's largest artery, responsible for carrying blood from the heart to the rest of the body. It's a congenital condition. I've had it all my life, but never had any symptoms. Left untreated, it can cause stroke and heart failure and would have probably significantly reduced my life expectancy. I'll be getting a stent fitted in a few months' time, and the long-term prognosis with treatment is good. But without this crash and an injury in a very specific and bizarre place, I might have never known this until it was too late. The best news, I can still ride my bike with this condition, and it's actually encouraged my long-term heart health. Moral of the story, seek medical attention when you crash. You never know what they might find. Thanks for the pod. You're a bunch of legends.
Wow.
That is so lucky.
Isn't it?
And unlucky. Same time.
Weird crash, very bizarre freak accident in terms of hitting a wheel with your neck.
That sounds terrible, doesn't it?
It does sound terrible, but it's worked out pretty well for him.
What a positive spin on a horrible thing.
Yeah. Next, we had a lot of suggestions for Jimmy transporting bikes by car. There were a few positive reviews of the Seasucker. You want to know about that. Larry, in particular, emailed us to say, hey, y'all.
You can't do accents. We're not allowed.
That wasn't an accent. That was just me reading it.
Oh, right.
You can't say that without having an accent.
Hey, y'all.
Hey, y'all.
Who's y'all?
That wasn't taking the piss accent.
How did you read that? It's not in Comic Sans.
Hey, y'all. I don't know how to say it now. God damn. Hey, y'all. Say it fast.
It's losing its meaning.
It really has.
We used a Seasucker to haul my Canyon Ultimate and my wife's Liv and have had zero issues at all. At all. We even have to attach it to a sunroof without a problem. And he's attached a picture of that, which looks wild.
Doesn't it look like he's under the sea?
It does look like he's
I
under the
was thinking he's in Zwift in that weird tunnel.
But yes, following was robbed. Hugs and kisses from the Gulf Coast. Roll Tide.
Well, thank you for your review and for living in Zwift somehow.
Maybe the tide
Kudos.
comes into the car.
Have we got any other suggestions or recommendations?
Yeah, so we had some emails from a few people who have made their own internal bike mounts so the bike can go in the car. Scott made a very cost-effective one out of some surplus wood. It's a T-shaped base that the bike then is secured on top of, and it can be then slotted in a car. He's drilled a hole in the front for a quick release skewer to go in and then secure the fork in place. And then at the back of the wheel, he is secured with a Velcro from an old mini pump, which is very clever.
Very, very practical that as well.
Very practical.
Very good.
Yes, and Jesse has made one using parts from Freedom Coast in the US. I think they are a company that sell these things. Mike also suggested Bike Inside, which is a German company that makes something very similar. I'm not sure whether we're going to have enough room in our car, though, for a bike to be placed upright. It's a Skoda Kamiq, which...
It's actually quite small, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, they sell it as an SUV, but it's
like a baby SUV.
It's like a Fabia with some bits on top to make it look like an SUV.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's going to work for us. The top vote in the YouTube comments was for a rear hitched mounted rack.
I think my short list currently is a rear hitched mounted rack or Seasuckers. Mm-hmm. What I do know is to get a tow bar fitted to the car, because you can't, to not void a warranty, which is something we talk about all of the time at the minute, it's £1,500 for a tow bar from Skoda.
For the tow bar?
Just the tow bar, yeah.
When you told me that, I thought that was for the rack as well.
No.
Oh, get f***ed. That's not happening.
But then I'm not sure how much Seasuckers are these days. I imagine the actual cost between getting a tow bar and a rack and a couple of Seasuckers is probably going to be about the same.
The official Seasucker is quite expensive. It's like £1,000. But the budget version that Lawrence got, you could get that for a lot cheaper.
Yeah, which fell off his car, you
only
said.
one fell off.
I've had a look. Sigma Sports, Seasucker Mini, Bomber 2, £404. Seasucker Bomber 3, £670.
Oh, cheaper than I thought. Okay.
Does that number indicate how many bikes it can hold?
The £404 one carries 2 bikes. The £670 one carries 3 bikes.
Well, that's significantly cheaper.
Well, you can get another one for 1 bike carrier for 320 quid. Still, that's a lot of money in it, but I guess if you want to We need to make something where it can go in sideways but not touch anything.
See, this is the thing. I don't want to trash the inside of in my old car.
Yeah.
We ruined it, and your old car with putting bikes in them.
You just keep fixing it. It's like guitars; they get all messed up, but people pay more money for them.
Yes, but you can keep fixing a car, but then it doubles how much you've spent on the car.
Okay, anyway, thank you for all of those suggestions. Please keep sending your emails, stories, suggestions and fun stuff to wildonespodcast@kmedia.co.uk. We had one more, but I think we will leave it there for now and we will do it next week.
Cool. So that's all for this week. Thank you all for listening. Hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you're following and or subscribing so you don't miss out on the next episode. Thank you very much and see you next week. Bye, guys.
Bye.